Dr. Kamal, may I start?
So we are live on YouTube as well, gentlemen. So
very well.
You may start, sir. You may start.
Good morning, namaskar and namaste from Shulini University up in the hills of Himachal Pradesh. My name is Prateep Mazumdar. I serve this university as director for the School of Hospitality. And today, on the 198th birthday of the last ruler of Awadh, Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, today we are very, very honored that we have been able to bring a very dear friend who happens to be the great-grandson and the fourth generation of the Awadhi ruler, Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. Prior to that, a few words about my wonderful university. Shulini University, set up by University Grants Commission Act, September 2009 was our birthday, or birth year, I must say. NIRF 2019, All India rank 101 to 150. Outlook iCare University ranking 2019 to in 15 in top state private universities. India Today ranking 2019 is 19th in India's best private universities. Students pursue unique and offbeat careers or study or work with the world's best brands, Nestle, Genpact, HDFC, Hindustan Lever, and many, many more. As a leader in higher education, the university has pioneered change in all sectors by aligning the needs of the industry and the delivered curriculum. The university is known for its global reach and innovative academic services. Shulini University is unique and special for its thought-inspiring architecture and infrastructure. Our mission is based on 4 pillars: A, research and innovation; B, honest and compliant; C, world-class education to the lesser privileged; and D, happiness to all lives which are touched by Shulini University. Having said that, the most important person for today's webinar, Sabah Bakhair, Assalamu alaikum, Janab. Are you being able to hear me, my dear guest? Mirza Saab, are you being able to hear me? Mirza Saab, you are not on the video. If you can come on the video, Mirza Saab. We are just waiting for Mr. Mirza to come on the video, ladies and gentlemen. So please bear with us for a few seconds. And Mirza Saab is right there. And with all due respect to the one and only Amitabh Bachchan, who is still at the Nanavati Hospital, Rishte mein to hum aapke aziz lagte hain, naam hai Shahenshah. Shahenshah Mirza, over to you, sir.
Good morning, friends. It's a matter of privilege and great honor that I've been asked to address the students of Shulini University. I'm thankful to my friend Prateep Mazumdar, my school friend with whom I have spent so many years in Calcutta.
And over here, there is a small little line of introduction for my dear, dear friend. We are friends from school. Shahenshah Mirza is the great-great-grandson of Nawab Wajid Ali Shah, the last ruler of Awadh. He is a senior officer in the GST department in the Ministry of Finance and is currently posted in Kolkata. He is a life member of INTAC, which is Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage. He is passionate about preserving the glorious heritage of India. He is a regular speaker at various forums and talks on different issues. He is a dedicated green and social activist and has planted thousands of saplings. He has also co-authored 2 books on Calcutta. One is called Calcutta, A Built Heritage, and the other is called Calcutta Dotes. So with that, I deliver and hand over Shahenshah Mirza to you.
Thank you, friends. It's my privilege to be a part of this program. I would like to thank my friend Pradeep Mazumdar, Dr. Kunal, Ankit Shukla, the management of Shulini University for giving me a chance to address the students. I would also like to thank my numerous friends from places as far as Australia and Canada. This talk has generated a lot of interest, and we had forwarded the posters to our friends, and today many of them are watching us. So it's morning in India, it's 11 o'clock, and we'll be starting our talk. I would like to just add a line of advice to our friends who are studying in Shulini University, that you all are studying in a world-class university. Please be very serious. Please be serious with your career, because this is the career of tomorrow, the hospitality industry. So today's talk is on the evolution of Mughlai and Awadhi cuisine. Can we have the slides, please? I'll be talking on the evolution of Mughlai and Awadhi food. Along with that, I'll be narrating some interesting royal anecdotes, which I think will be of interest to all of you. So let us start our conversation. I don't want to make it a lecture. I just want it to be a sort of a conversation where I'll be talking to all of you. So it's more like a storytelling. India, as we all know, is the second most populous country in the world. It is the seventh largest country in the world. But to me, I would like to consider it as a mini universe, in the sense that, we have got so much diversity in terms of language, religion, culture, caste, tradition, cuisine. We have mountains, we have got deserts, we have got rivers, we have got oceans, seas, and whatnot. We have got forests. And at the same time, we have also inherited an ancient civilization. Our civilization goes back 2,500 years back in history. It started with Indus Valley civilization. And right from the time of Indus Valley civilization, India has been treated as a global economy. We were self-sufficient. In medieval time, India was referred as Sone ki Chiriya, the golden bird. And naturally, we had a lot of invaders, we had a lot of conquerors, we had a lot of visitors, we had a lot of people coming from different parts of the world. And whenever people came to our country, they added to our culture, to our cuisine, to our tradition, to our customs, to our social habits. But today, since we'll be talking about cuisine, I will limit my conversation just to the royal cuisine. With every passing entry in India, layers and layers of food habits, dietary changes became a part of our cuisine. When Europeans came in our country, they introduced a lot of items like pineapples, tomatoes, potatoes, chilies. And all these became an integral part of our cuisine. In order to understand Awadhi cuisine, in order to understand Mughlai cuisine, we have to go back 500 years in history. It all started with the entry of Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur. That is the slide of Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur on the screen, ladies and gentlemen. In North India, when I say North India, in those days we didn't have the concept of India, I actually mean Hindustan. But for students, I'm referring, in many places I'll refer to India, but it actually means Hindustan, because at that time, it was called Hindustan. So in northern part of the country, there was a power vacuum, which took place because of the disintegration of the Lodhis. And at that time, the Mughal made an entry in our country. The first ruler of the Mughal dynasty was Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur. And I consider Babur to be an interesting character in the history of India. Babur came with a small army at the invitation of the local ruler. He was the ruler of a princely state in Fergana. He conquered Samarkand, and then he lost Samarkand, he lost Fergana, but he was very ambitious. So he wanted to come to this part of the world. And he came to India, and then he defeated Ibrahim Lodi in the first battle of Panipat. For the first time in our country, gunpowder was used. When Babur came to our country, and after he defeated Ibrahim Lodi, he declared himself as the Emperor of Hindustan. He liked the country a lot, and he wanted to settle down over here. So that is where the famous Mughal cuisine started in India. Babur was also a man who used to write a lot, and his autobiography, Baburnama, mentions a lot of things. It is one of the most frankest autobiography written by any ruler in the world. Babur did not like Indian food, surprisingly. He preferred the meats and fruits of Samarkand. Dear friends, whenever I talk about Babur, I always mention that I often wonder that if Babur had not come to our country, what would have happened to our Indian history? There would have been no Taj Mahal, there would have been no Agra Fort, there would have been no Jama Masjid, there would have been no Red Fort. And most importantly, there would have been no Mughlai food. So it's a blessing, in a sense, from a culinary angle, that we had the entry of Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur in our country. So as I was mentioning about Baburnama in his autobiography, Baburnama had mentioned the dishes that he used to like. He was very fond of lamb kebab. He was very fond of chichi. Chichi was a porridge which was made with wheat flour, paste, meat, ghee, onion, and saffron. Babur used to drink, but at the same time, he was unhappy that he was a drinker. So he had taken a vow before a battle, before an important battle, that he will give up drinking. And finally, he gave up drinking. When Babur started ruling, he did a fantastic job. He called all the cooks of Ibrahim Lodi, there were 50 of them, and he selected the 4 best. And he told them that from now on, you are going to be my chef. Knowingly or unknowingly, Babur did something which laid the foundation of the Mughlai cuisine in our country. He told his chefs, who were Indian chefs, who were the chefs of this country, to cook Central Asian food using Indian ingredients. So that was a beautiful marriage of Central Asian food with Indian chef. And that laid the foundation of the world famous Mughlai cuisine in our country. The next ruler was Humayun. You can see the picture of Humayun. Humayun did not rule for very long in our country. He was there just for 4 years. But Humayun added dry fruits and nuts. He told his chefs to add dry fruits and nuts in recipes like sweets, sauces, and rice. And that added a new dimension to the Mughal cuisine. Humayun, for that matter, was very fond of sharbats. And he used to drink a lot of fruit juices. Humayun at the same time was very, very concerned that he should not hurt the sentiment of the majority Hindu community. So he shunned the consumption of beef. And in the Mughal court, we had meat of goat, fowl, and venison, which were used in large numbers. Humayun, like many other medieval rulers, had many wives. And one of his wives was Hamida Banu. Can we have a picture of Hamida Banu, please? Hamida Banu was a woman of Persian origin. And she added a lot of sophistication in the Mughal cuisine. She told the chefs to add a lot of saffron and dry fruits whenever they cooked anything. And that gave a very, very interesting twist to the Mughal cuisine. Friends, I would like to mention over here that the Persian cuisine and the Arab cuisine are the 2 famous cuisines in the Middle East. But even today, if you compare the Persian cuisine with the Arab cuisine, you'll find that the Persian cuisine is far more refined. And because the Persian culture is an old culture, it's, uh, it's known for its refinement, it's known for its education, it's known for sophistication. You will find that reflected in the food also. The Arab dishes are nowhere compared to the Persian dishes. So Hamida Bano introduced that Persian influence in the Mughal cuisine. And as a result, even today, some of the Mughal cuisine have a lot of Persian names. After Humayun comes one of the greatest ruler of our time, Jalaluddin Muhammad Akbar. And during Akbar's time, the Mughal cuisine reached great heights. Akbar was the emperor of this country. He was one of the most powerful ruler. And Akbar had employed 400 cooks. Yes, 400 cooks. We are not talking about a prime minister. We are not talking about a chief minister. We are talking about Hindustan ka Shahenshah, who was actually a Shahenshah. So he employed 400 cooks. And Akbar made it a point to eat food only once a day. One of Prophet Muhammad's teaching is that you must get up while eating before your stomach is full. Akbar was not an educated man in the modern context of education, but he had a very, very broad vision. He was a far-sighted man, and Akbar used to do the same thing. He used to get up before his stomach was full. He used to give his cook 1 hour notice, and he used to tell his chefs that please make sure that 100 dishes are served before me. So friends, just imagine, just visualize, close your eyes and think that Akbar, Prime Minister, is telling his chef, his 400 chefs that prepare food for Akbar, and 400 chefs are getting down to work and preparing 100 dishes for Akbar. Most of the chefs of Akbar were from the Rajasthan area. And naturally, you know, the Rajasthan cuisine is also very, very famous. So it was a wonderful mixture of the Rajasthan style of cooking mixed with the Central Asian, punched with the Persian influence. And that created a heavenly cuisine, which today we know as the Mughlai cuisine. Akbar, like Humayun, also banned the eating of beef in his court. And he also avoided all those meat which offended the Hindus and Jain brothers. But Akbar was truly the emperor. So he made sure that when food was served to him, either it was served in gold or silver or stone or earthenware dishes. They were being tied with cloth, and it was being inspected by a number of examiners before it was being served to him. Because in those days, one of the ways of assassinating the ruler was by giving him poison. So Akbar ensured that the food that comes to him is safe. It may come as a question to some of our young friends over there that, you know, why did he eat in these types of dishes, gold, silver, stone, earthenware? Friends, for example, if you are having kheer, you can't have in a gold vessel. You can't have in a silver plate. It has to be in a mitti ka chukka, because then the essence, the fragrance of mitti will get absorbed in kheer, and it will add a new dimension to kheer. So there are certain dishes which are supposed to be served in gold dishes, which are supposed to be served in silver, and supposed to be served in other metals. And Akbar did that only. Akbar had a huge number of chickens as a part of his kitchen entourage. And these palace chickens were hand-fed with pellets which were flavored with saffron and rose water. And these chickens were given a massage every day so that the body of the chicken is developed. In those days, we didn't have the concept of, you know, injecting chicken so that, you know, the mass of the chicken would go up. So the chickens were given a massage so that, you know, the chicken gets a muscular figure. He also had a kitchen garden which ensured a continuous supply of vegetables. And he was very fond of flowers. Akbar also had a minister who was known as the Minister of Kitchen, and his job was to organize everything. One of the interesting things which I find in Akbar was that he fasted regularly. Apart from the 30 days in Ramzan, Akbar also fasted during the other 11 months. And he was at the same time very superstitious. The month in which he came to rule, he never used to eat meat in that month. Of course, he never forced this on his subjects, but he used to tell his subjects that this month you all should avoid eating meat, because he felt that the month in which he came to power, if he doesn't eat meat, it will be auspicious for him. Whether it worked out for him or it didn't, we don't know. He was also a vegetarian thrice a week. Compared to this popular perception and notion that, the Mughal rulers, were hardcore non-vegetarians. No, that's not the correct thing. That's not the truth. Many of them were vegetarian. And Akbar became vegetarian thrice a week. The kitchen garden that I talked about, the vegetables that grew over there were nourished with rose water. And Akbar felt that the vegetable that would grow will have a very subtle fragrance of rose water when it is being cooked. We don't know whether those vegetables had the fragrance of rose. So after Akbar, we had Shah Jahan, the man we all know as the one who made Taj Mahal, one of the biggest landmarks of this country. And Shah Jahan did many things like many other Indian rulers. And one of the most notable things that Shah Jahan did was he shifted the capital from Agra to Shahjahanabad. And when he shifted his capital from Agra to Shahjahanabad, he was being told that the water of Shahjahanabad is not conducive for drinking and cooking. And as a result, a lot of people started falling ill. Now, in those days, friends, whenever any dishes used to be cooked, it used to be cooked in consultation with hakims. Once again, contrary to the popular perception, the authentic Awadhi cuisine and Mughal cuisine is not heavy. It may look rich, it might be rich, but it's very, very light on your stomach, because the ingredients that are added in such a proportion that it will help in digestion. And the taste that comes out is very, very subtle. So no matter how much you eat, you don't get that feeling of, okay, I'm feeling uneasy. If you had a Mughlai cuisine or an Awadhi cuisine and if you feel heavy, then please take it from me. I'm telling you with all responsibility that it is not an authentic Awadhi or Mughlai cuisine. So when the people started falling ill, they started complaining to Emperor Shah Jahan. So he called his Hakim and said that, something has to be done about it. We can't shift our capital back to Agra. So these Hakim worked out a solution, and they said that whenever food is cooked, turmeric, red chilies, cumin, and coriander should be added. These spices have a lot of medicinal values. And because these spices were added, it killed the bad qualities in the water, and water became safe for drinking and cooking. And it was during the time of Shah Jahan that tomatoes were added for the first time. It was being introduced by the Portuguese, and then it became a part of the Mughlai cuisine. Before that, the Mughlai cuisine was very, very bland. And after the addition of turmeric, red chili, coriander, cumin, and tomato, it became somewhat rich and red. The food that was cooked for Shah Jahan was cooked with rainwater and water from Ganga. Shah Jahan believed that if food is cooked by taking the rainwater, which is considered to be the purest form of water, and water from Ganga, the end result would be fantastic. And that is what he did. Shah Jahan also used to do something very, very interesting, which I would like to share with all of you. Before eating, he would like to keep aside a portion of the food for the poor. He used to say कि मेरे खाने के पहले ये खाना गरीब लोगों को जाना चाहिए. Before I eat, this food should go to the poor and needy. So a portion was set aside for that section of the society. And after the food was consumed, Shah Jahan used to spend a lot of time on the dastarkhan, which was a type of, letting your head down, of chilling out. And, he used to discuss politics, he used to discuss religion, he used to discuss a whole lot of activities after having his meal. After Shah Jahan comes Muhyiddin Muhammad Aurangzeb. And this is a picture of Aurangzeb in his old age. Aurangzeb was a very, very conservative emperor. He did not like the luxurious style of Mughal cuisine. And surprisingly, one of the favorite dishes of Aurangzeb was ubuli. It was a dish which is made of rice, Bengal gram, basil and curd. And Aurangzeb mainly ate a vegetarian food. There was a time when he had imprisoned his father Shah Jahan, and history tells us that he told Shah Jahan that I will only allow you to eat dal. So the chefs went and told Shah Jahan that don't worry, we will cook dal for you in different style. So there are about 6 or 7 dals which are generally eaten in our country. These dals were prepared by the Mughlai chefs daily with a new twist. So each dal was never repeated. Each dal tasted differently. So these were some of the attributes of the Mughal rulers. In those days, food formed a very, very important part of the culture. People used to gift food as a diplomatic etiquette. It conveyed messages of friendship, goodwill, status, and power. In 1707, Aurangzeb died, and there were political turmoil in our country. Different regions started declaring independence. We had Hyderabad, we had Awadh, we had Lahore, we had Murshidabad, we had Kashmir. And in Awadh, can we have the picture of Sadat Khan, please? And in Awadh, we had Sadat Khan Burhanul Mulk. He was a Persian noble who came from Persia, and he was being appointed as a governor in Akbarabad. Within a short span of time, he was able to prove his worth, and he rose high in the hierarchy. And in 1722, he declared a sort of independence and laid the foundation of Awadhi Empire. Awadhi Empire started from 1722 and it ended in 1856. The fourth Nawab of Awadh, can we have the slide of fourth Nawab? The fourth Nawab of Awadh was Nawab Asif-ud-Daulah, and people compare Nawab Asif-ud-Daulah with Shah Jahan. Because now Nawab Asif-ud-Daulah was a man who wanted to build a lot of monuments like Shah Jahan. And during Asif-ud-Daulah's reign, Lucknow rivaled Delhi in terms of food, culture, language. Asif-ud-Daulah, like many Awadhi rulers, was also fond of eating. The top class of chefs who were called Rakabdar. Rakabdar were those group of chefs who used to cook very refined, very sophisticated food for the Nawab, nobles and his guests. And those food which were cooked in large quantity were being cooked by Borchis. These Rakabdar never cooked food in large quantity because they felt that it was below their dignity to cook in large quantity. The food that was being presented before the guest was also very, very important. In Awadhi culture, of course, food plays a very important role, but how you present it is also equally important. And this happened during the time of Awadhi rulers. They lay a lot of stress on the presentation part. During the reign of Asaf-ud-Daulah in 1784, a famine took place in Awadh and northern part of this country. A lot of people became poor. There were no crops, there were no food. So Nawab Asaf-ud-Daulah wanted to help his subjects, but he wanted to create something which would be unique. So he came up with this idea of building Asafi Imambara. So this picture is of Asafi Imambara, which is popularly known as Bhul Bhulaiya. It is a two-storied structure. The ground floor is Imambara. For our friends out there who may not be fully aware of what an Imambara is a replica of a tomb, and this tomb is of Prophet Muhammad's grandson, Imam Hussain, who had attained martyrdom in Karbala in Iraq in 680 AD. So the Awadhi rulers were Shia by faith. So this Imambara was built by Asaf-ud-Daulah, and on the first floor is the labyrinth, which has got 486 identical corridors and doors. And that is why it's called Bhul Bhulaiya, because all are identical. So if you ever happen to go to Lucknow, please make sure that you visit Asafi Imambara, and also make sure that you go to Bhul Bhulaiya. But don't go alone, take the help of a guide. Otherwise, there's a very high possibility that we may not find you. So in 1784, when this famine took place, Asaf-ud-Daulah said that, I will give job to thousands of workers to build Asafi Imambara. And then the construction of Asafi Imambara started. Very quickly, he realized that even the nobles were affected by this famine. So Asaf-ud-Daulah said that fine, during daytime, the common laborers will build this Imambara, and on the third night, he would invite the nobles to break what has been built. So it's like taking 3 steps forward and 1 step backward. He told the nobles to come in the night and break what has been built so that their dignity is not hurt. So that way, the common laborers and the nobles were taken care of. It took many years to build Asafi Imambara. And when Asafi Imambara was being built, Asaf-ud-Daulah wanted to give food to the laborers. So there used to be huge cauldrons where rice, vegetables, saffron, ghee, many spices were being put together. They were being sealed with dough. The lid was being sealed with dough, and it was being cooked for hours. The idea was to give these laborers a single dish which would be nutritious, which would be heavy, and which would ensure that they don't feel hungry throughout the day. But Asaf-ud-Daulah was a man who was very passionate about this project. He was a man who was very concerned about his subjects. So every now and then he used to go on rounds to see what type of construction is taking place, what type of food is being given to the laborers. It has been said that on one of the rounds, he got a whiff of the fragrance coming from one of the cauldrons. He liked the aroma, and he told one of his chefs that I would like to taste this food. The chef with folded hands said, "Huzoor, ye khana to mazdoron ke liye hai. Aap to nawab hain. My lord, this food is for common laborers. Why you want to have this food? You are the nawab of this province." But Nawab Asaf-ud-Daulah said, "No, I would like to taste this." And the food was served to Asaf-ud-Daulah. Asaf-ud-Daulah liked the food. And these Awadhi rulers were great connoisseurs of food. So he called his chef and he said that I like the basic character of this food. Please ensure that you all work upon this food to make it more interesting, more delicious. So the chefs went back to their drawing room. They worked. Various trial and error methods were done, and vegetables were removed. Meat was added. more quantities of saffron were added, some exotic spices were added, and then it was being cooked. The Awadhi cuisine is usually cooked in the dampok style, where the steam doesn't go out. The lid is being sealed with a dowel. As a result, all the aroma fragrances of spices gets absorbed in the food. And because of this experiment, the world got a new dish. Today, what we know as Awadhi biryani. And that's the picture of Awadhi biryani. And when I'm talking about Awadhi biryani, I would like to offer one or two advices to you. If you are having biryani, make sure it's mutton biryani. Never go for chicken biryani. That is the best combination. And if you are having biryani, for God's sake, don't use a spoon and a fork. Use your fingers. Because your fingers will be able to connect the rice, the meat. It will touch your heart. So these are, some of the advices that I would like to share with my friends. In Awadh, food was considered to be something very sacred. People were passionate about food. In many houses, food was being cooked, and it was being cooked by cooks, and the entire food was not cooked by one group of cook. Like example, two cooks are cooking a particular dish, so these two cooks will cook from A to M, and the other two cooks would cook from N to Z. The idea was the secret of Awadhi cuisine should not be leaked out. So the first set of cook would not know the later part of cooking, and those who cooked in the later part would not know what happened in the initial part of cooking. In Awadh, breakfast also played a very, very important role. Some of the major decisions were taken over breakfast. In breakfast, generally people used to have sheermal, Roghni Roti, paratha. During winter, they used to have paya and nahari. And many of these Awadhi rulers had sweet tooth, so they used to have balai. I'm stressing on the word balai. It's not malai. If you are in Lucknow, please don't say malai, it's balai. Balai comes from the Persian word bala, which means above the top. So, the upper portion of the milk, when it has been boiled, it's been taken and form a part of balai. As I said that, in Awadh, a lot of important decisions used to take place over breakfast table. Conspiracy, different theories, discussion, all formed a part of Awadhi breakfast. The Awadhi rulers and the nobles, they generally slept very late. And when you sleep late, naturally you will get up late. So they had a very, very heavy breakfast. And over the breakfast, they discussed all these things. Interestingly, a lot of matrimonial alliances also took place over breakfast. In fact, I met my wife for the first time over breakfast. Now, the first picture which my friend Ankit had shown is that of Shami Kabab. Can we go back to Shami Kabab, please? The picture before this is a picture of Shami Kabab. The Mughlai rulers and the Awadh rulers, the Mughal rulers and the Awadh rulers, they were very fond of kebabs. Kebabs originated in Central Asia, and it became a popular dish. And it was also a very, very important dish in Awadh. There are about 40 types of kebab. Shami Kabab was a very, very interesting kebab. There's no way I can, hear the students, but, I would like to ask each and every student of Shuloni University why Shami Kabab is called Shami Kabab. Unfortunately, I'll not be able to hear their answer, but even without their answer, I would like to explain to my friends out there why Shami Kabab is called Shami Kabab. When Awadh was at its peak, number of people came from different parts of the world to be a part of Awadh. Some joined the army, some joined the administration. And a group of soldiers came from Syria. They came from Syria because they were strong, they were well built, and they could be easily absorbed in the army, and they fought well. And naturally, when they came from Syria, they came with their language, they came with their culture, they came with their style of cooking. And they started cooking meat in Awadh. And one of the dishes that they used to cook was this Shami Kababs. And it was being shared by the people of Awadh. And the people of Awadh like this style of cooking meat. In authentic Shami Kabab, papaya is not added as a tenderizer. Generally when we cook meat, we add papaya to make it soft. But because Shami Kabab is added, is cooked with other spices and all, we don't add papaya, which was something different for the people of Awadh. So to distinguish this type of kebab, people started calling this Shami Kabab, which became very popular. Now the question comes, why Shami Kabab is called Shami Kabab? Shami Kabab is called Shami Kabab because it was being introduced by the people who came from Syria. In Arabic and Urdu and Farsi, Syria is referred as Sham. If you hear the Arabic news even today, they will never use the word Syria. They will call it Sham. So in order to distinguish this type of kebab, they used to call it Shami Kabab since it was being introduced by the people who came from Sham. The next picture is of shirmal. Shirmal is a flat bread, somewhat like paratha, which is cooked adding a lot of saffron and milk. The interesting thing of shirmal is that it has got a very, very long shelf life. And it was being used as a tabarruk, as a gift during Muharram. People, when they used to travel from one place to another, in those days, you can understand we didn't have planes, so people had to spend a lot of days while traveling. So they used to carry shirmal with them, and shirmal never used to get spoiled. The other picture is of Roghni Roti. This roti is also a type of a paratha, if you want to say. It's made adding half maida, which is refined flour, and atta flour. It improves the texture and taste, and it is being usually eaten with shami kebab, jalebi, and fresh cream. The other picture that I would like to show is of Nimish. Nimish is a dessert which is available only during winter months. It is very popular in Chowk. Chowk is a very famous locality in Lucknow. And it has been prepared by boiling milk for several hours. And when milk is boiled, you have to keep it stirring it, which gives rise to froth. And then you keep this froth, and then this froth is being kept under the open sky, under the open winter sky. And the dew settle on this froth, and then the next morning this is eaten as namish. The moment you put it in your mouth, it literally melts. So anyone who is planning to visit Lucknow during winter months, my suggestion to you is that please try this sweet dessert. This dessert, you will definitely like it. The next picture is of Shahi Tukra. Shahi Tukra, as you all know, it means a piece of royalty. There's a very interesting story behind Shahi Tukra. One of the begums of our rulers was very, very benevolent. She used to get very upset when she used to find that food is being wasted. So she used to tell her chefs that don't throw away this food, don't throw away these items, give it to the poor. And then after some time she realized that when shirmal is being given to the poor, they find it very difficult to eat because either there is no kebab or there is no curry, there are no vegetables. So she told them that why don't you make a sugary syrup, dip this shirmal into it, and then give it to it. It will become more delicious. And the chefs did it. Later on, she said, okay, no, I'm not happy with this. Try to improvise on it. Try to make it more delicious. So the Awadhi chefs were given a free hand. Money was never a problem for them as far as food was concerned. So these chefs tried various methods to make shirmal, which was being dipped in sugary syrup, more delicious. So they added saffron, they added dry fruits, they added fresh cream. And that gave the birth for Shahi Tukra. So Shahi Tukra today is an integral part of Awadhi cuisine. When we talk of Awadhi cuisine, it is important to mention the contribution of the last Nawab of Awadh, Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. Nawab Wajid Ali Shah came to throne in 1847, and I would consider him to be one of the most unluckiest ruler in Indian history. He was a man who was far ahead of his time. He was a man who could have created a new chapter in the history of this country. But unfortunately, at that time, the English East India Company had grown very big. They had become very powerful, and they did everything to dethrone him. So they started with defaming him, and they finally succeeded in that. Wajid Ali Shah had some qualities which very few Indian rulers had. This is a very famous picture of Wajid Ali Shah. The moment you Google Wajid Ali Shah, this is the picture that comes on the computer screen. Now, in this picture, you see that Wajid Ali Shah is wearing an achkan. His left chest is exposed. It doesn't mean that he is trying to give a fashion statement. Wajid Ali Shah, at one level, was a poet. And this is a symbolical gesture on his part that he is trying to tell the world that my heart is open. Like in Urdu, we say, कि मेरा दिल खुला हुआ है. What he meant was, कि my heart is open to everything, whatever I see, whatever I hear, whatever I observe. The subjects are all equal before me, be it Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Sikh, anyone. And he felt that in order to rule, it is very important that you must hear the grievances, the hopes, the aspirations, the ambitions of all your subjects. Hear it, understand it, take it in your heart, and then take a decision. And likewise, in poetry also, if you want to write good poetry, you have to take everything inside you, absorb it, and then only good quality poetry will come out. So Wajid Ali Shah was trying to give a symbolical message to the people that, I'm ready for everything. Please convey it to me. Please talk to me. Please tell me. Wajid Ali Shah was also a great secular. He was a great champion of secularism. He treated the two great communities of this country, the Hindus and Muslims, equally. And that is where the Ganga Jamna Tehzeeb was born. Ganga Jamna are the two great rivers of this country. And when we talk about the Ganga Jamna Tehzeeb, we talk about the two great cultures of Hinduism and Islam, which assimilated over several centuries because, the Hindus and Muslims lived together for so many centuries in this country. As I was mentioning that Wajid Ali Shah was a great secular, I'll give you a small example. Every year in his court, Holi was celebrated with great fanfare. It once so happened that Muharram, the 10th of lunar calendar, we have got 364 days or 365 days, 355 or 356 days. So as a result, every year, but Wajid Ali Shah was a ruler. He was a great secular ruler, and he had to cater to all sections of society. So he said, no, like every year, we will have Holi celebration in the morning, and in the afternoon and late afternoon, we'll have rituals associated with Muharram. So that way he was able to satisfy the Hindu community as well as the Muslim community. The secular fabrics that was being woven by the Awadhi rulers was so strong in UP and particularly Lucknow that till today you can find that strength. For our friends out there, I would like to mention that in Lucknow, because of the secular fabric that was being laid out by these Awadhi rulers, till date there has not been a single case of Hindu-Muslim communal riot. Thank God for that. In 1855, there was a terrible communal riot in Ayodhya. Yes, Ayodhya was also a problem in 1855, and a lot of people had died. Nothing happened in Lucknow. People died in Ayodhya, Those who are familiar with the geography of UP will understand Ayodhya is not very far from Lucknow. But nothing happened in Lucknow. In 1947, when we got independence, followed by a blooded partition, millions were uprooted, millions got killed, but nothing happened in Lucknow. In 1964, we had a terrible communal riot. Many Indian cities were affected. Thousands were killed, but nothing happened in Lucknow. In 1992, when Babri Masjid was brought down, many cities were affected. Ayodhya was affected, but thank God, nothing happened in Lucknow. And I pray and I hope that this great secularism should exist in Lucknow forever. These were some of the contributions of Wahid Ali Shah, the important contribution. Of course, if I have to narrate his contribution, it will take me more than a day. So Wahid Ali Shah kingdom, Awadh was annexed in 1856. And he decided to come to Calcutta because in those days the Governor General was in Calcutta. So he came to Calcutta to meet the Governor General because he had heard a lot about British sense of justice and fair play. So he came to Calcutta to meet the Governor General. And he realized that Awadh will never be handed back to him. So he decided to send his mother, brother and son to England to meet the Queen and place his case before the British Parliament. And before anything could happen, the great uprising of 1857 happened, and all chances of getting back Awadh were dashed forever. At that point of time, Wahid Ali Shah, who was being taken as Nazarband by the English, was released and he was given an opportunity to live anywhere in the country. But he chose Calcutta, and he chose a locality in Calcutta which is called Matia Bridge, because Matia Bridge is on the banks of river Mughlai and it reminded him of river Gourmet in Lucknow. So he decided to spend the rest of his life in Calcutta. He spent the last 31 years of his life in Calcutta, and during that last 31 years, he created a mini Lucknow in Calcutta. His contribution is tremendous in Calcutta, but one of the most popular contribution of Wahid Ali Shah in Calcutta is the Awadhi cuisine. Because of Wahid Ali Shah, items like Murg Musallam, Nargisi Kofta, Sheermal, Roghni Roti, Biryani, Pulao became a part of Awadhi cuisine in Calcutta. The biryani that is cooked in Calcutta, you'll see this is a picture of Calcutta biryani. Calcutta biryani is the only biryani which has been cooked with potato. Once again, there's a lot of misconception why potato was added in Calcutta biryani. In early 17th century, the Portuguese had introduced potatoes in Surat. The first cultivation took place in Surat. And over the next several decades, it spread to different parts of the country. It came to Calcutta, it came to Bengal by the English traders. In those days, potatoes were grown in very less quantity. It was considered to be very exotic, and naturally it was very expensive. Wahid Ali Shah was once again a food connoisseur like his ancestors. He had given a free hand to his chefs to try and experiment new methods to improve the delicacy of the food. So one day he told his chef to improve biryani. So his chef, in one of the experiments, added potato to biryani. A potato being a soft vegetable, when it was being cooked in the dum cook style, it absorbed all the aroma, fragrances of saffron, different spices, rice, meat. And when biryani was served to Wahid Ali Shah, he found it very delicious. And he said that henceforth, whenever you cook biryani for me, make sure you add potato. And that is how potato became an integral part of Calcutta's biryani. If you go to different sites, you'll find things like Wahid Ali Shah had fallen on bad days, and that is why he told his chefs to add potato. That is just a figment of British imagination. And anything which we hear from Gora and Gori, we take it as gospel truth. That is our fault. Wahid Ali Shah never fell on bad days. He used to get a pension of 12 lakh rupees a year. He was the highest paid pensioner in India. He had a zoo. He created the first open zoo in 1864. Out of that 12 lakh that he used to get, he used to spend 25% of his income on the upkeep of animals and maintenance of zoo. So a man who can spend 25% of his income on maintenance of zoo and upkeep of animal can certainly afford meat in his biryani. So that was the story of Wajid Ali Shah. And I'm sorry we have run out of time. There's so much to share with all of you all. And before I end, I would like to quote a line from the autobiography of Zahiruddin Muhammad Babar, because it was Zahiruddin Muhammad Babar who started it all. And Babar writes in his autobiography, "Enjoy the luxuries of life, Babar, for the world is not going to be had a second time." Okay, friends, Khuda Hafiz, till we meet again. I hope you enjoyed this session. Thank you very much.
Shansha, we are not going to let you go so fast. Thank you so much for sharing so much of information. I've been going through the chat box and everyone has been so appreciative of the treasure trove of information that you have shared. These are absolutely fantastic anecdotes for young minds as well as for all our respected audience. For students especially, this is an absolute extravaganza what you have actually dished out. Last evening, actually, I was sitting down and doing a little bit of research on the topic. So, you know, with your permission, I'd like to add a few things which I also want to know. And probably this might come across as a little bit of an interest. So the two most important fellows in the royal court, in what we in our hotel language say back of the house areas, would be the Shahi Khansama, the executive chef, and the Shahi Hakim. The biryani rice grain was coated and silver flecked with oil because it was helping in digestion and it was an aphrodisiac. Shah Jahan had a cookbook which was called the Nushkahi Shah Jahani, which spoke about the amalgamation of the following 6 cultures in terms of culinary: Uzbek, Persian, Afghani, Kashmiri, Punjabi, and Deccan. Would the wonderful audience even believe it that a man who came and started the Mughal Empire in India was in tears because he would always miss his watermelons of Uzbekistan? Humayun was the person who brought Persian influence into Mughlai cuisine. Babur's wives brought a whole lot of cooks from all over the world. Jodhabai, we haven't spoken about Jodhabai, which is Mrs. Akbar. So Jodhabai was the person credited with making the Panchmel dal, which nowadays we call the Panchratan dal. Jahangir's 20th wife, he was a man who had a lot of wives, Shansha has already told us, and his 20th wife was Mehrun Nisa, whose other name was Noor Jahan. And apparently she was extremely adept in making beautiful wines and a rainbow colored yogurt. Shah Jahan was the man who started the use of haldi, jeera, and dhania because of its therapeutic and medicinal values. One of the words that Shansha has also used this morning was the nihari. And for those of us who like Mughlai cuisine, nihari is something that we have in the morning. It is a spicy meat stew. It is cooked overnight in a container which is called the shab deg. And this was, the history behind it was when Shah Jahan moved from Agra to Delhi, a virulent flu had broken out into the city. And apparently the Shahi Hakim experimented with the nihari and the nihari came out to be the panacea. So nihari's history was because of the virulent flu in Delhi. Biryani, we spoke a lot about biryani. A wonderful name and a variant of the biryani is called the kubuli, Q-U-B-O-O-L-I, kubuli. And this biryani is with basil rice, Bengal gram, dried apricot, almond, and curd. Many of these things have been found in the famous chronicler by the name Abul Fazl, who has written all this in his a very illustrious work, which is called the Aini Akbari. So I just thought, Shansha, with your permission, I would share a bit of whatever I also learned about this topic. And this was extreme. I mean, it completely opens the eyes. lot of our audience members were writing that they would now like to go to the Imambara. They would like to go to Lucknow, taste the Nimish.
Most welcome, most welcome, most welcome.
This is fantastic. And my colleague, Chef Naginder Yadav, who's my kitchen instructor, has also got a couple of questions for you. So
Sure,
if I can
sure,
ask
sure.
Nagin to
Yes,
please ask your questions.
Sure, sure.
Sir, good afternoon. Very good afternoon, sir. I would like to say that it was the very, very fascinating and informative session for us. Really, we loved really regarding a Mughlai cuisine. I have some couple of questions. Please allow to me ask, sir.
Yeah,
And
please.
first question, sir, how does cuisine reflect the culture?
How does the cuisine reflect the culture?
Right, sir. Right, sir.
Cuisine has got a direct relation with culture. Like in Awadhi time, when guests were being invited, like suppose you are having a party in your house and you have invited your guest, forget about the food that you will cook for the guest. The moment the guest would come, you would sprinkle the guest with rose water, which is a form of welcoming your guest. And after the meal, when the guest would depart, you would again sprinkle rose water on them. So that was like giving respect to the guest.
Right, sir.
The unwritten rule was that when they are leaving, if you don't sprinkle rose water, it means that you don't want your guest to come back again. The Persian influence, if you see in the food, is far more refined and sophisticated. If you compare the Persian food with the Arab food, you'll find that the Persians, they add a lot of sophistication and refinement. They will use very good cutlery. They will use very good crockery. They would decorate the table. In olden days, we had this concept of dastarkhan, which would, very loosely, we can call it a tablecloth. And in dastarkhan, couplets were being written. Like suppose if I'm inviting Pratik Mazumdar to my house for the first time, so, I would tell one of the tailors to make a dastarkhan, and I would tell one of the shairs, one of the poets, to write a couplet in his honor. So when Pratik Mazumdar is having food sitting on the dastarkhan, he can see a couplet, which is written in his honor. So this is all a part of the culture. Then the way you eat, the way you take a particular thing, like we are being taught that, if you go somewhere and you are being told to eat something and you eat something which you don't like, never say that, it is not good. Never say it's not tasty. There are, ways of expressing. You should not hurt the sentiments of the person who has cooked. You should never hurt the sentiments of the person who has invited you. So these are there's a very direct connection between the culture and the cuisine.
Right, sir. Right, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir. I have one more question. It's a very, very personal question, sir. Please allow to me ask the questions.
Yes, please.
Does your family have any special recipe that are passed down from generation to generation? This is a very, very personal question, sir. I want to.
I'm glad you raised this question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Even today, this is 2020, food is considered to be something very heavenly. People are very passionate about food. And in many homes, the secret of fine cooking is not taught to daughters. It is not taught to daughters, but it has been taught to daughters-in-law. It is not taught to daughters because the family fear that after marriage, the family secret will be leaked out. You never know where your daughter will be married to, in which family.
Right.
But it's been taught to daughters-in-law so that it remains within the family.
That is so wonderful. This is what an analogy you have come out with, Janab.
People ask me, let me complete. People ask me, what happens in your family? Have you taught this to your daughter? So now I have two daughters. I'm being blessed with two lovely daughters. So we have no option. Huh? We have to teach them. Secrets of Awadhi cuisine.
Shensham, our Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Atul Khosla, is a complete foodie. He is quite a gourmand, actually. So he's asked a question here. What are your 3 favorite dishes And where can we go to in Lucknow to taste these?
I can tell you of the places where you should not go in Lucknow. That's very easy. The first place where you can go to is our ancestral home, Hashmat Manzil, where my family, my wife's family grew up. But, on a serious note, try to go to a traditional home. Don't go to any restaurant. With due respect to my friends, who have fancy restaurants in Lucknow, don't go to any restaurant. Go to a traditional home. Over there, you'll find authentic Awadhi cuisine. And you will get the real essence of Awadhi cuisine.
But what are your 3 favorite dishes?
That's a tough one. But still, I'll try. I would rate Seekh Kebab. Seekh Kebab was not a truly Awadhi cuisine, but it became a part of the Awadhi cuisine. The other is mutton biryani, which I eat with my fingers. I don't use a spoon and a fork. And the third, I would say, Shahi Tukra.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. You've all made us very, very hungry right now. Janab, you've made us extremely hungry on this Thursday afternoon. A question comes in from Madam Ashu Khosla. Mirza Saab, what a wonderful talk. Eid is around the corner. What would a typical Eid feast at your home be? And she also wishes you Eid Mubarak in advance.
Thank you so much. In fact, last evening we were discussing what to make. So there are 2 major Eid. One is Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Zuha. Eid al-Fitr is, like people call it meaty Eid. And we have Burd Musallam. Or at times we have also Galavati Kebab along with paratha. But the Eid that we are going to celebrate 2 days from now, most probably we'll have mutton biryani, Galavati Kebab.
Talked about papaya. So there is an enzyme in papaya which is called the papain, and the papain, when used as a tenderizer, makes the mutton so soft that when you put it in your mouth, it completely gal jata hai. So that's the reason why the word Galavati Kebab. So that's fantastic, and thank you very much for that. Madam Renu Parekh asks, did Asafullah and also patronize music as Wajid Ali Shah?
To an extent, but not as much as Wajid Ali Shah. Wajid Ali Shah, he loved music, he loved dance, and he was a great patron of Kathak and Thumri. Asifullah was interested, but not to the extent as Wajid Ali Shah was.
Mr. Orghoshen is asking, in Mirza Saab's opinion, where do you get best biryani in Kolkata? I'm sure Mr. Sen knows the answer, but he is still asking you for validation.
Mr. Sen, please come to my house. If it is not a problem for you. The second option is that please come for my daughter's wedding whenever that happens.
Lovely, lovely, lovely. Madam Bhavna Shah is asking, what should be the right way of presenting Mughlai food to guests? How to present the spread?
Very important. I'm glad, this wonderful lady has asked this question. If you are inviting your guests and you are treating them to Mughlai food, number 1, don't give them any alcoholic drink. That will just spoil the party. Number 2, don't give any heavy starter. Number 3, don't make the cuisine very wide, in the sense, just have 3 or 4 dishes. Don't try to be like Emperor Akbar, having 100 dishes. What I mean is that, if you're having biryani, concentrate on biryani. Have paratha, have kebab, and maybe 1 more dish. It should not exceed 4 dishes, because biryani by itself is a complete dish. It is a complete single dish. Like my father always advises people that, you should not eat anything before having biryani, and you should not have anything after having biryani. Now, when you're having Mughlai cuisine, if you're having dessert, it's important to have dessert. Have things like firni, shirmal. Don't have gulab jamun. don't have ice cream. That's like murdering the whole setup. It should be in tandem with the Mughlai dishes.
Mia Shansha, ye bataye.
Second one is that, once again, there's a lot of misconception that, the Mughlai and the Awadhi cuisines are very heavy. Whatever spices you are adding, make sure these spices, the flavor that comes out are very subtle. One should not overshadow the other. Each spices should be able to retain its property in its own way. Only because it is Mughlai or Awadhi, don't be under the impression that, you have to add, X plus something while preparing it. No, it has to be in the right proportion. Yes.
Mia Shansha, ye bataye, I have always had this doubt in my mind, this question in my mind. Biryani ke saath hum raita kyun serve karte hain? Doesn't it completely antagonize the flavors?
Originally, biryani ke saath we used to have burani, which was made with curd, and few spices. It used to help in the digestion. Biryani used to be so tasty, even now it's tasty, that there's a tendency that, you tend to overeat. At least when I'm having biryani, I have no hesitation in admitting that, I generally overeat than what I'm supposed to eat. So it helps you in the digestion. That is why you have burani. So when you are having biryani, it is better to have burani, which is just curd and few spices.
Right. An interesting question has come from Madam Shreya Mitra. It was an informative and fascinating lecture. I would like to ask, sir, did Wajid Ali Shah add any ingredients borrowed from English cuisine in his 31 years of Kolkata days?
No.
I think that's a great question, actually.
Yes, I mean, I'm hearing this question for the first time.
Absolutely.
No, he didn't.
Right. Let me just check for any other question. Yes, there is a question here from Mr. Panda. I was simply enthralled with this informative session. Thank you so much for doing this. I have a question for Mirza Sahib. What would be basic difference between Awadhi and Rampuri cuisine?
Rampur was also an offshoot of the Mughlai cuisine. Awadhi cuisine had a very strong Persian influence. A lot of people came in Awadh during the time of Asif-ud-Daula from Kashmir. And when they came from Kashmir, they came with their style of cooking. And with their style of cooking, they introduced saffron in very large quantity. So in Awadhi cuisine, you find liberal use of saffron, which you don't find in the Rampuri style. In Rampuri style, you have a lot of non-veg items. Whereas Awadhi cuisine, it may come as a surprise to you, Awadhi cuisine has got a very long list of veg items and items made out of fish.
A question has come in from, just 1 minute, I'll just scroll up here. Yes, here it is from Mirza Muzam Beg Sahab and he's asking, my wife, Mrs. Ruby Khan, and I want to know whether Mughals started their food with sweet or they would complete their dining with dessert.
They completed their food with desserts.
Right, okay. Mr. Niladri Banerjee has a question here. Being surrounded by so many food elements around, what are the culinary changes does Mr. Mirza feel has taken place? What are the culinary changes and evolutions have taken place according to Mr. Mirza?
Oh,
and I think this would be the last.
So food has evolved greatly. I don't know whether it has evolved for better, but in my humble opinion, I would like to stick to the traditional style of cooking. For instance, take biryani, for instance, which is one of the most popular dishes in our country. I find that, people having biryani with salad, please don't, never make that mistake. People having biryani and adding, gizalas to it, please don't do that. Each dish has got its own importance and it has to be eaten accordingly. I'm not in favor of what is known as the food fusion. I respect each and every cuisine, and I think that, we should stick to the traditional aspect of it. If you are cooking fish, for example, in the Bengali style, please cook it in the Bengali style. Don't try to bring the Goan style into it. If you're cooking it in the Goan style, stick to the Goan style. Because what happens is that, when you try to borrow something, there's a mismatch, and that mismatch is terrible. I have seen people, of course, there was a time when I was posted in central Calcutta, and when I used to go out, I used to find that there were some eateries, roadside eateries, which were selling Chinese food, chow mein, and even in chow mein they were giving salads. So so this type of addition and fusion and experimentation, I think, should be avoided.
Shansha, thank you so much. You have really added so much value and so much knowledge to all of us today. And I am so glad that on the 17th of July, early this month, when you and I connected because of your birthday, and we started talking about the possibility of this sort of a webinar, and you accepted. And I'm so happy that, the audience have so much appreciated this interaction that we have had. Thank you for taking out your time. To all the respected audience, thank you so much for having taken out your time and spent it with us this morning come afternoon. Once again, Shansha, thank you very, very much, and we'll connect again.
Thank you. And just one word over here. Today is the 190th birth anniversary of Nawab Wajid Ali Shah. And I don't know where Wajid Ali Shah is now, but wherever he is, and if he's able to see all of us, today he would be a very, very happy man. That today we are talking about Mughlai cuisine, Awadhi cuisine, and we are talking about his legacy, something, which he would feel very happy. So thank you very much. It was lovely interacting with all of you, and hope to see all of you again. Thank you.
And I'm not going to forget that left chest exposure depicting an open heart. Dil khula hai. Thank you very much, and God bless everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.